She's probably not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's by somebody. Yeah, he's really
And they would
Oh, you were off.
Oh, that's good.
there.
Oh, that's.
Yeah. Yeah, we heard about it.
And you were laying on the couch.
First one was the one I was before. But I'm like, Kansas City.
That's what Brandon said.
My daughter got baby home. I called her, she just found to go out there more. And she actually, I had the door. And then she comes in there.
You're here to answer questions about the code change. Oh, which one?
The waiver basis of work.
Oh, the water tank and the, make sure that the city has enough authority to take care of them. If they don't want to build a tank for themselves. Because they wouldn't get that done for about, 15 years through government appropriations.
Well, it's not a lot of stuff.
They were sort of between a rock and a hard house over there.
Yeah, and we have access, so.
So
it works.
Yeah, that means we get paid for water that we don't have to do anything.
I am going to the training room, there was a lot of work. So, we had a few half open on there. Virus or whatever.
All that is breathe.
Can't take the money.
It's like that.
It's like a $5,000.
It's fine.
Good.
Where are you gonna sit?
I'm gonna go right here.
You going right there?
No.
Lisa, I'm gonna sign something for Lisa today. Don't leave it outside.
Whatever. How are you?
No, it's for college. They don't need to say, but.
What am I signing for?
Now you have two things to sign.
The council found it.
Nice. It's from the level of control for health.
I'm gonna. Do like a copy of everything and then go to get a copy of it. Want to read that?
I need to stop. Oh, first time in a while.
Yes, maybe out of this part again. I know. It's not gonna. It has to have to be kind of clear.
Well, I have.
All right. Great. This is from a father of 4 daughters and a wife. Here she is.
Thank you very
Have you, David, you checked the fire marshal?
We're gonna daisy chain something.
Did you get this done?
Right up, I would just go look, peek at your right up.
Not gonna get into the head.
No.
We're meant
We're good. Really? Undo this one and we'll go say, got it.
You have no opinions. Well, no, that
I'm like, I didn't mind going.
I don't like green flags.
I haven't seen it yet. I thought we maybe have.
You ready?
But we will. You get behind me.
I did.
You. He already got me on.
Okay. We'd like to get started here. We want to welcome everyone to the South Weaver City Council meeting. It's 6 p.m. and today is November the 28th, 2023. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance from Councilwoman Alberts, and then we'll have a prayer by Councilman Alverson.
Please repeat after me.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our dear Father in heaven, as we come before thee this evening, we're thankful for the opportunity we have to gather here and to discuss the needs of our city. And we're thankful for the city we live in, the state we live in, and the country and the freedoms we have. We're thankful for our armed forces and our police officers and our fire department. We ask you to watch over and protect them, that they may be safe and be able to return to their families in safety. We're thankful again for all we have, and we ask for thy spirit to be with us, that we may make wise decisions and that we may understand the needs that are before us, and that we make the best decisions we can. We're again thankful, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Haley and Blair. We'll begin with our public comments. If you have a comment, we'd ask that you come up to the microphone, state your name and your city, and we'll allow you 3 minutes to speak. And please speak directly to the council, and we'll go forward with public comments.
They're passing out copies. Paul Stern, South Weber City. The public comments I have tonight are on, for the agenda, action item number 12, packet page 113 of 347. The agenda item, and in the handout that I just did, the verbiage in the boxes are cut and paste directly from the handout and the packet itself. It's for the Public Works Facility project scope of work change. Excuse me. The Municipal Utilities Committee recommends approving a scope of work change for VDC to oversee the site work bid and construction management instead of having it performed by Jones and Associates. The City Council awarded the building portion of the Public Works Facility to VDC on September 12th, with the understanding that the site work for the project would be designed by Jones and Associates, then bid out separately. My actual comments: I believe this is a worthwhile change to save project monies, but since the South Weber City Council awarded the building portion of the Public Works Facility project to VDC on September 12th, 2023, with the understanding that the site work for the project would be designed by Jones and Associates, then bid out separately, does the proposal change invalidate the City Council's understanding upon which they voted? Number two, well, and this is just some questions that I have. Will the change impact the contract cost by more than $10,000, which I believe is the limit for the city manager to approve? Number three, once VDC gets bids from various portions of the project, who approves/awards these contracts to commit city funds? Bottom line, should the City Council vote on these proposed changes? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, anyone else? If not, we'll move along with our agenda. Action items tonight. We have our consent agenda, which consists of our October 10th meetings, October 24th meetings, October minutes, October checks, and September's budget to actual. Are there any discussions on any of these items here?
Yep, I'm just gonna bring up the ice machine rent again.
Okay,
I'd really love to see that change to a purchase. So I don't know how we go about do that, but we've been talking about this for several years. It's 300, what was it, $334 a month. Since we no longer have to have our, what was that wagon called? Our trailer rescue trailer. You guys know what I'm talking about in public safety, since we don't have to provide that anymore. And that was the argument to maintain that. We should just purchase one. Unless someone can give me a good argument why it's good for us to lease, but you can get a good size commercial one for a few $1,000s.
Yeah, I know that I know that we've discussed the need for it, but I don't know that I recall a discussion between leasing versus purchasing. Did we have that discussion?
Yeah, we have, and I mean, the sole purpose for the high volume one was for the rescue truck. And so maybe we need to bring it back up with Derek in Public Safety Committee. And we'll do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
That it wasn't always for the rescue truck. It is for the medical ice that we have in our vehicle. It's not just for that rehabilitation truck.
But the volume of that particular ice machine was because of that demand versus what the demand is on our regular vehicles. So that's why it's a more expensive one.
Right.
We've had that many
Many times. And this is about $4,000 a year we're paying. So we could purchase one and then if and when that goes out, replace it.
We'll look at it.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, anyone else? We'll look for a motion then to pass the consent agenda.
Motion.
Have a
So
motion,
moved.
and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, our next item is public hearing for fiscal year 2024 budget amendment. I look for a motion to open this public hearing.
Mayor, I make a motion, we open the public hearing for the fiscal year 2024 budget amendment.
Okay, we have a second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is open. Anyone have any comments? Seeing none, we'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next item, resolution 23-52 fiscal year 2024 budget amendment. Any discussion on this from the council? There is none, and we'll ask for a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution 23-53 fiscal year 2024 budget amendment.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll begin with a roll call vote from Calverson.
Aye.
Calverson.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman Alverson.
Aye.
Excuse me.
Aye.
That makes me Calvert's. I like it.
And I'm Kanji.
Angie, okay.
Quinn might be a little difficult though.
Next item, ordinance 23-15 rezoning 2.169 acres at approximately 1721 East South Weaver Drive. Changing it from agricultural and a residential low to a residential moderate. Any discussion on this from the council?
I don't like this. I don't approve. I don't like it. I know it's a far cry dream, but you know, I mean, I think we should just leave it agriculture and RL and maybe we just might get a developer that wants to honor that. But if they don't, they will know that it's in the general plan for RM. That's my 2 cents.
I agree with Haley that we wait for ConAgra to come in and start farming that again, but no, actually. The only problem I really have with it is that the state's limiting already what all we can do. And something like this, where we're getting the zoning already out of the way, and I know that makes it easier for the city to sell, but I would rather still have the ability to look at what is actually being proposed, when it's being proposed, and make a decision then. I mean, I know we don't even get much control over that anymore. But it still to me seems like we're moving forward with a rezone that no one is requesting. We're just doing it to help out the sale of it.
You may have said it better than I did. That'll be the last time I say that.
So does the staff have an explanation one way or the other?
Oh, quiet.
Yeah, this was requested by the city. This was requested by the council to prepare for the sale, exactly like you said.
Yeah,
When did we talk about that?
a month ago.
About rezoning? I
Yeah.
remember talking
We,
about
we discussed about,
in council?
Uh-huh.
yeah.
You know, I thought it was a good idea.
It makes it easier to sell.
I don't
I mean,
remember this conversation.
They can always do less. And so it's just one step. I mean, I don't, I don't know that I'm for or against. I mean, it's kind of a neutral thing to me.
A girl can dream. Sorry, Brenda, I didn't mean to check you out.
I thought that it was more of a value conversation issue that if it was already rezoned RN, potentially you could sell it for more than just the way that it is as it's.
And I agree. And I also don't know that it's more so much as this is easier for the developer, but I feel like it allows us to say, we've already zoned this RM. This is what we're doing. It's already consistent with the general plan.
Because didn't we decide that as it sits, whoever buys it can't utilize it as a business because of the zoning it is, the only reason it's that way is it's for us. So we can't put, either it's gonna go back to agricultural, or it's gonna go to this. So I don't know that
I thought it was just inconsistent with the general plan so that we were just moving forward in that.
I think one benefit to keep in mind, we're still the landowners, and so we could require a plan before we sell, right? We still hold the keys.
We can do that?
Yeah, we can say, no.
Yeah, but is that-
Until you give us a plan.
Sell is the key word.
But do they have to stay tied to that plan?
Once they buy it,
If
then
we do a development.
Yeah.
agreement to sell, yeah.
Oh.
Well, we still own it. We don't have to sell it.
We're the owners.
I still don't approve. I just want, so. I'll let that be what it'll be.
I'm okay with it. That was a plan to move it forward, and I think it makes it easier to sell with an RM rather than a mixed.
I think it would, and I think it would be easier to sell if it was RM. If that's what we want to do with it. And the value, I think, is there too. With an RM.
I agree.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at this a little bit closer. How wide is that entrance for Public Works?
it's pretty narrow.
The
What
driveway.
page are you on?
86.
Thank you.
So I'm just gonna point out that we're leaving the surrounding properties are RL and ag, and both of those would need to be rezoned for them to do anything with that parcel, because if they connect it to that 7460, that puts you over the 30 house limit for that subdivision. So they actually can't do anything with that property unless they purchase the surrounding properties.
Lots are in that. So
How many?
30, exactly,
Is it really?
exactly
I didn't think
30.
There was that many. That isn't it? That's a.
For the-
Well, that's a valid question.
Good in an area right now.
Yeah, check my numbers, because you guys all know that I'm horrible at it, but the plat includes the ones up by Dygert's. Oh, 29, yeah. So they can't add anything to it without having a second entrance.
That includes the ones on the top.
It's
where
in the
Dygert's
plat,
is?
I'm not sure on the street.
There is 21 on.
Is it 20 with the 3 up top?
So
Does that count the 3 on the top?
Don't count.
Don't count towards the
Yeah,
egress?
sure.
They have
Street.
access.
Yeah.
Okay.
Egress for something, yeah.
So it's 4 acres. And there's 21 on the,
It's a little over
Street?
2.5.
So how many are in the cul-de-sac?
How many?
21.
21.
I only
Okay.
count
You
can have
21,
30.
2, 3,
Yeah,
4,
so-
5, 6.
So that's doable.
I only count 20.
There, that might be different now, I think.
Maybe
I think
Google.
there's enough extra with, whether it's 20 or 21, however you're counting it, that. The maximum number of additional units that you could put on that. Just with the configuration of the property, you're not gonna exceed the 30 gallon thing.
And just the,
Well. There's two roads. On the subdivision to the east that's stubbed to the west.
mhm.
One of those, and I believe on the general plan is that it's the southern one, is intended to connect through to 76.
Right.
But that's not the one that is adjacent to the city's.
Right.
So that one would likely just end in a, cul-de-sac or something.
Okay. We need further discussion, or do we want to make a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 2023-15 rezoning 2.169 acres to at approximately 1721 East South Weaver Drive, parcel 130. I didn't mean to read this whole thing. 130300009 from agricultural A and residential RL to residential RM.
We missed a zero, but
You-
I will second it.
I'm sorry.
That's why I didn't tackle that part of it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll begin with a roll call vote from Councilman Deal.
I know it doesn't. They've already said. No,
I don't know.
I'm a yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries 3-2. Okay, our next item, ordinance 23-16, amending Title I, Chapter 3, City Manager and 4 officers and employees. Any discussion on this ordinance from any of the council? If not,
well, I know that bringing it up to what the state has defined for us probably makes the most sense on it. I just again want to state that I don't think that a city this size needs director level. But that's not part of this argument, is just making sure that it comes up to the state definition. So, yeah. I'm fine.
okay. Any others? If not, then we'll look for a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 2023-16, amending Title I, Chapter 3, City Manager and 4 officers and employees as noted.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll begin with a roll call vote from Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next, resolution 23-54, U.S. Department of Labor Water Storage Agreement. Any discussion on this item?
I think Brandon wrote this, but once that's paid and all said and done, they basically will pay like 4.1 ERUs. Oh, did Danica write it? Or Dana write it, sorry. they'll-
I wrote the agreement, so yeah. Yeah, basically, they don't have storage. It was kind of discovered or realized that they didn't have storage a few years ago. And the city has excess storage. They've been basically using our storage anyway, so we're just making it official. They're paying an impact fee, and then they will be paying a monthly utility bill as well.
And the monthly utility bill is based on like 4.1 ERUs or something like that, wasn't it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other questions, or we'll ask for a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve resolution 23-54, U.S. Department of Labor Water Storage Agreement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll begin with a roll call vote for Councilman Hills.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next, resolution 2355, consolidated fee schedule, chapter 13, Family Activity Center amendment.
Notice that you each were given an amendment.
An amended amendment. Okay,
That really goes up a lot.
Yeah, in order to not bring the consolidated fee schedule back 2 meetings in a row, there are 2 totally separate and distinct items. What you see before you was brought to our attention after the map was published. And that item is specific to Weaver Basin's impact fee for development. Needs to be updated in our consolidated fee schedule so we can charge the updated fee that they charge when development comes and purchases water from them. So that's what that is. We can talk separately and distinctly about the amendment that the Recreation Committee is recommending.
okay.
Weaver Basins is fairly significant.
Yeah, there's just, that went up a lot.
And that's what their fee schedule is.
I can explain that fee a little bit more. What you're doing is that you're actually acquiring additional water source for the city. Doing it this way, when someone pulls a building permit, they're actually paying for the capital portion of the water. So there, when Weaver Basin charges for water, there's the capital portion and an O&M portion. And the majority of that cost is the capital portion, what they had to pay to build their infrastructure to deliver the water. If you do it this way, then it's a one-time charge, and then we, the city, for ongoing use of the water, only pay for an O&M portion, which is much, much smaller. So it's a much better deal for the city to do it that way versus you can pay for the whole thing and just pay the same amount every year. But then you just pay that ongoing and forever.
There's not additional questions about the water portion and other questions about the recreation portion.
Okay, then, someone ready to make a motion?
Mayor, I'll move to approve resolution 23-55, the consolidated fee schedule, chapter 13, Family Activity Center amendment with the additional amended paper that we've just gone through with the Weaver Basin water adjustment.
I'll second that.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Do a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. Motion carries. Next item, resolution 23-56, Castle Cove Phase 1 Development Agreement Amendment. Any discussion on this item?
I'm not sure I understand the need. Somebody could.
Sure, so with the original agreement required the asphalt in relation to all of the right of way to be complete in order to deed the land over using the plat. Typically on a development, we only require a road base to be down before we allow them to record. And just the time of year, it's pretty costly to lay winter asphalt and rip it up and then lay hot asphalt in the spring. And so feasibility wise, it was difficult for the developer to come to that, so they requested. Us amend the agreement to allow them to record the plat when they have the road base complete. With anticipation that they'll pave in the spring.
So the pavement portion would be put in escrow.
Correct.
And so they need that before they can record.
Yes.
Okay.
We need all improvements to be done or escrowed for before they report.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve resolution 23-56, Castle Cove Phase 1 Development Agreement Addendum.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Dills.
Aye.
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 Okay. We good, Lane? Did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Next. Next item, Public Work Facility Project Scope of Work Change. There's some comments on this in our,
So maybe we can address a couple of the comments.
Yeah.
Before. So actually Valley Design was very upfront with us and very willing to work with us, just so that there wasn't a lot of miscommunication and problems with coordination. And it's very, very minimal fee is what we haven't even determined that fee, and it will still, all those fees will come before the council as to approve them. And all of the construction costs will come before the council to approve them.
Right.
They will get multiple bids, 3+, they were saying 5+. And then those bids will be taken to the Municipal Utilities Committee for approval and then brought to council for approval. So they will, anything won't just be done by the city manager. Yep. It's, I think it's a very good deal. I think it's a win-win for the city versus having Jones and Associates do it. I think it'll actually in the long run save the city money
I think it will too.
for what they're
For sure.
talking for a very minimal, like 1%, 2% type fee.
Right. I think it's good.
I do too.
So one of the questions I had was that, does this take the city council or even the committee completely out of the selection process then?
No.
Okay,
They will, the way I understand it is they will bring us all the bids they receive. They will be the
Okay.
ones putting them out for bid instead
Uh-huh.
of Brandon putting them out for bid. Brandon's gonna give them his stuff, their architect's going to then put it out for bid. Just how they normally put out their bids, BidSync, their own bid site, all their, actually more avenues than we use.
Yeah.
And they'll get multiple bids in and then bring them in and we'll review them.
okay, sounds good.
I think
Thank you.
An important piece of the change and scope of work change is that once it is awarded, that contractor that is selected will work through BDC. Our contract will be with BDC, and that scope changes that they will then oversee that second contractor rather than we oversee them. So rather than us overseeing two people, we will oversee one contractor. That contractor will have scope for the whole project and keep the coordination to a minimum and responsibility.
There's some gray areas on who starts where, who stops where, that goes away.
Yeah.
And it's just theirs.
Yeah.
So I think it's good.
Yeah, sounds good.
And Brandon Jones and Associates, you're fine with that?
I think.
Yeah. I'm totally supportive of that. I think that's much better overall for everyone to just have one larger umbrella that's coordinating everything, and then he's ultimately responsible for everything, coordinating everything. So there's no finger pointing or anything like that. If things don't, line up or whatever, it's all on him.
And
Very
I
good,
think,
thanks.
I think if it would have been a different contractor and they would have had these 10 and 15% fees on it, it might have been a different story, but they're wanting to get rid of the gray areas as much as we are.
Dave, do we need a motion on this?
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll have a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve appointing Valley Design and Construction, Inc. to oversee the site work bid and construction management of the Public Works Facility Project.
I'll second that.
We have. Okay, do we need roll call or can we just All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay. Takes care of the action items. We got a discussion item on ordinance 23 or 2023-17. Adopt City Code Chapter 2 or Title 2, Chapter 3. Impact fee, amend multiple sections of Section 10 zoning regulation, replace Title 11 subdivision regulations and amend development, design and construction standards. We move this to a discussion item tonight rather than having an ordinance on this, so I'd like to discuss this.
sorry, I was just kind of confused. If we're just changing everything to meet the state, what discussion can we have?
That is a great question. So we included in there a highlighted version of the ordinance. I know that has made us extremely long because there's lots of attachments, but the highlighted version has coded in red what meets the state code. Blue is discretionary, but we would recommend maintaining that, and then green is completely discretionary to the city council on what we can update, and we can go through those if you want to go through those individually. Yeah, we followed city code or state code with this. It was a pretty hefty process with Brandon and I to get this drafted. And then went through the city council. A really good overview, planning commission, I'm sorry. A really good overview is the flow chart that's included on page 119 of the packet to kind of outline how the process will work. So state code was pretty clear that the administrative land use authority could be the planning commission or staff or a combination of the two. But to have the city council not be the legislative or the administrative land use authority for final plats, and have that rest on staff or a development review committee. And so that's what's reflected in the ordinance there. So we can go question by question. It's a lot. And so I understand there's probably a lot of questions, and we can help clarify where those areas are that you have.
So my biggest question was, of the changes, are they all red highlights? Or did we change any of the blue and green?
With the planning commission or
With,
To see the
With all the
changes, you have to
updates.
go to the other draft down below. That's why it's confusing.
Really confusing.
It's,
It's a rewrite of the entire.
it's,
the whole thing.
yeah, the
Yeah.
whole thing was a rewrite. And so the highlights were just highlighted on whether they strictly adhere to state code, whether they were adhere to state code and have some discretionary, but that's probably best practice to go. And so staff, we would recommend to keep those. And then green were the discretionary items. I tried to detail in the staff report exactly what the planning commission recommended changes. And there were a couple staff changes as we were reviewing again for the meeting that we included. One was that in the definitions, we included a definition of the administrative land use authority for staff and for the planning commission, but you are the administrative land use authority for vacations of easements and streets and those things like that. So we added that definition into our definitions to make sure that was consistent with the code. And then one other was, and Brandon can speak more to this, was 11.8.2 was just completion assurance and guaranteed performance.
I have several questions, but didn't we determine, this was a council discussion, that we did not want to have final plat approval go to staff? This has been a discussion item before,
Mhm.
and because you're basically taking the preliminary plat approval as planning commission.
Mhm.
Then it goes city staff. City council, you will never see that.
And that's based on state code.
That's on state code, yeah.
So that's how it is,
It's
period.
not for council either way. The question is, who do you want to be that final authority, planning commission or staff? This board.
Well, and one of the problems
is that-
with it is that there is a time limit once they put in that application. That means that, say, like if it went to the planning commission, they have 10 days to review it and approve it, and they don't meet every 10 days. So there's a lot of this that I've seen other cities push it towards staff or a separate development group, another committee, if you will, that looks at just the approvals and meets at a timely manner to meet that demand of the state.
There are provisions that will allow to create a smaller group of individuals from the planning commission and perhaps the mayor. A lot of that is geared towards smaller municipalities that don't have the resources of having full-time staff to do their development review. And so the advice and guidance from utility cities and towns, their sheet had a pretty plain, but this planning commission was the planning of the preliminary land use authority. And then the final plat approvals are done by staff or that committee structure and largely looks back at what was approved at the preliminary stage. If there's substantial changes to layout and things like that, then it would go back to the preliminary process. And so final really should look almost identical to the preliminary.
The real policy thrust of the legislation, whether we like it or don't like it, is
Speed.
to move things along quicker. And it changes where the work takes place and where the ironing out of the deficiencies in an application take place. We're used to a process where a lot of that happens on the back end. And this will force a lot of that to happen at the front end. And so the city will have to be really diligent in making sure applications are complete. And then the planning commission will have to be very diligent when it approves a preliminary plat, because you really won't have an opportunity to make many changes in the final plat. And so I guess my recommendation, given that structure, is there's not an option to have it come to the city council. I don't think you're the size city where it makes sense to form a new committee, because I think that committee will be stretched to be able to do the work in the time that we're required to do it. That staff may be the best place to get that work done, where you can do it within the time frame and make sure that we keep on pace with the requirements. And we're just going to have to change our process to do the work on the front end before the preliminary plat, knowing at that point that there won't be very many changes in a final.
So with that being said, then we're also changing it to where the planning commission is not required to hold a public hearing.
So
That's on page, whatever I'm on. This thing's
Yeah, I
long.
think that's to the point of the state legislature.
That's a green item.
So it is a green item. The wording in the code is that they may
Sorry.
hold that. It is a green item though. A state code doesn't require cities to hold a public hearing for subdivisions themselves. That's a choice from the city. So the planning commission, when they made the motion to approve that, they included that they may hold a public hearing, but they're not required to on subdivision ordinances. As a city council, you can choose whether or not you want to accept that or go back to strict public hearings for subdivision ordinances. Some background on that is we had a conversation about setting up places that can have friction points with the residents on holding a public hearing for a subdivision that is an administrative item, and they voice dissenting opinion, and the planning commission still has to approve it because it still meets code. That was a concern of, let's get them to the public hearings that they can influence, like legislative items, rather than at the administrative level. But as a city council, you can choose to take that may out there and put a shall in. That's your prerogative.
I think one of the hard parts is that we have to now rely on city code. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all we've got. So if it's not listed in city code, we've got no more say in it. So we've really got to, we've really got to make that solid because even with Brad Wilson moving on, I mean, it's still, that's the taste that the legislator has up there is to take it all out of the city's purview. So.
And they're really doubling down on the idea of legislative process and administrative process, and councils legislate and set the table with city code, and then once that application comes in, it's no longer legislative, and the idea of when to hold a public hearing, they're trying, and I think for confusion's sake and for clarity's sake, is, as Trevor pointed out, put public hearings where it's a legislative action, and that input really can inform the decision and influence the decision. Whereas that public clamor perhaps, or that input on an administrative decision creates confusion and unmet expectations so many times.
It does.
Well, that answered a couple of my questions.
We
The-
fully understand this is part of a lot to digest, so.
The only other one, and this is just because I've had to sign them, signatures on the plat. You not want this secondary water anymore on the as a signature. Page 29.
I'm happy to have.
No, I don't care if it is or isn't. I just didn't know. I mean, it has been in the past. but-
I think, it's, for secondary water, sometimes it has depended on the subdivision, because sometimes there are, you know, easements that are outside the right of way, or other things where they kind of need to be a signer based on, use of the land. But where their, you know, entire infrastructure is within the right of way, sometimes it's not as important because they wouldn't get approval until they have a plan approval letter, and that's really where ensure that those requirements are met. And the plat isn't as necessary, but sometimes if in the plan approval or in the comments from the secondary water company, they say we want a signature block on the plat, then we would just tell the developer they need to put a signature block on the plat. Or if you feel more comfortable, we could just require it.
Doesn't matter to me. You would know better than I would.
Well, but that's when it comes down to though, is that if we want it, it's a requirement. It's no longer a, you know, well, they can come back and ask for a larger this, or they can come and ask to change this. And I think that's going to be a little more difficult than we think to just put in code that way. I think the developers are going to have a harder time, quite honestly. I know it'll speed through the process, which is what they're saying is the big problem, but yeah, I think they're going to find they're going to run into a lot more restrictions and no way to go around them. So it's going to be interesting. One quick note, though, I do want to thank Trevor for this. This is honestly one of the most organized and put together presentations we've had, and on such a huge part of our code. You and Brendan obviously worked very hard on this, and it really shows.
Yeah,
So
put a lot of work in.
I usually give you a lot of grief on everything you guys do for a reason, but this just kidding. This is really good. I wanted to thank you.
So we will put it on as an action
So-
item next
So we'll
time.
put it on.
Yeah.
every-
Are there changes or things that you'd like to see come back? That's part of the discussion. Are there things that you like or dislike you want to change?
Well, I think one of the things we have to decide as a council is whether or not we want it to go to PC or just staff. And I think we need to give them that direction for it to come back, because I don't want to have to work on that again. Also, the red is not sacred, regardless of what's put down on it. That was to ease our way through this. If there's things that you see in the red that define things too specifically or in a way that you don't agree with, we can definitely put those in and
Right, it semantically, we could change things or reorder them or, but we felt that the code that was drafted sufficiently met what the state code had. But yeah, that is a good point that it's not off limits, don't touch it at all, but you can't change it by saying, you know, the administrative land use authority is the city council, right? That's something that's not available to.
So the question then is, do we want it to go to PC? Do we want it to go to staff? Or do we want it to go
Well, if
to?
PC is only gonna meet
Yeah.
once a month. But I think it could say staff or a committee so that if you in future you need it to be a committee, you can have it be a committee. Whether we think you need one now or not, there's no sense redoing it later just to create a committee. In my opinion,
I think it's a good idea.
It is a good idea.
because if we find we don't always have staff that's gonna be as thorough as our current staff, we may need to have a committee.
It's true.
No, I think that's good. So can we do that, Trevor?
We absolutely can. So, are you wanting to define who the committee is, or the committee?
I think just
As-
a committee.
Just the committee as designated by who?
City council.
City council.
City council?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make that happen.
Don't look at Jamie.
Well,
Yes, he's.
he's our lawyer, I don't know.
So my biggest worry anytime there's a major rewrite is that we overlook something, miss something. We only get one shot for a lot of these things, so hopefully somebody's gone through the prior and the new to make sure that everything has been captured that we've learned in the past. I'm assuming you have, but
That was certainly the goal. You know, when you complain about code that was in place when you started and you wish things were different, now you have a chance to start from scratch. You certainly hope that you've got something that you love and is perfect. And I hope that we do. There's a chance that as we go through the process, maybe we'll find that there's something that has a need or needs a tweak, but we have really thoroughly gone through the state code to make sure that we are compliant with that. And then implemented other elements that were within our discretion. So all I can say is that we've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that it is as bulletproof as possible. And we'll find out.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, we will.
Okay,
Jamie, do you agree with that statement?
The part about finding out.
No. I'm sure we'll find out.
No, Quinn makes a good point. I will read through it one more time, and you can never double and triple check this stuff enough. I think the reason for doing it out of whole cloth instead of trying to revamp the existing code was because that would introduce unintended errors, and this way we can make sure it's all coherent and correct. But we'll give it another read. We want to make sure it's right.
But you do feel that it covers everything that the state is
I do.
requiring.
Yes.
Yeah, we, just a little background, there's a lot of ancillary sections in our current Title 11, and Brandon and I took time to go through each and every section to make sure that there weren't items that needed to remain. If they didn't need to remain, where do we put them? And so we utilized our current code to make sure that the bones were still there, that the intent is still there, matched with state code, and then like the ordinance title says, there's a lot to it. We also found that we have our impact fees in that section, and remove that out, and other amendments to Title 10. And so we feel like 98% confident we hit everything, but obviously we can't guarantee that there's not going to be a moment where we go, wow, we never got one word.
Yeah. And what date has the state set that we have to have all of this change in place?
February of next year,
February 1st or February 28th?
February 1.
We have an effective date on the clause on the resolution that it won't go into effect until January 1. And any applications that are submitted will be subject to the current code until that time. And then if they want to go with the new code, then they will have to resubmit applications and start over the process.
And the reason for that date wasn't arbitrary. That's when the council composition will change, and so we thought the existing council can operate under the code as it is. And then when you introduce a new council, they never will have to transition from one process to another process.
But the February 1st deadline that comes from the state legislature.
Okay, thank you. Let's move along. Next then is our reports. Anyone have any business report, new business they'd like to bring up? I got 2 items. Let me hurry and get out of the way. So at our last COG meeting, Colonel Holland from Hill Air Force Base was there and said that this next year, June the 29th and the 30th, the air show will be back at Hill Air Force Base. Yeah. Everybody was excited about that. So you might write that date down. And then the county has been doing this every year. It's point in time count is what it is. Davis County point in time count. They go out in January 25th through the 27th. They go out at 3:30 a.m. in the morning to 7:30 a.m. in the morning and get a count on homeless people in the county, and they're looking for volunteers to help with that. They send them out in groups of 3 and they canvass the whole county and come up with a count on homeless people. So if anyone is interested in that, some of the council from other cities have done that before, and some of the mayors, and said that it's a good service item, that it's a real eye opener.
You know what the mechanics are of doing that? There's a lot of people live in cars and
They said
lots.
they said they know the areas they're at, and you'd be surprised where they're at and where you'll find them, but they have done it in the past, so I'm sure they know the areas. They said there's some in South Weber, and I said, no, there's not, because I know everything that goes on in South Weber.
Do you?
No, apparently not, if there's something.
There definitely are.
Huh?
There definitely are.
Yeah. So anyway, if anyone's interested in that, they need some volunteers. It's through the county. And so that's how we would contact them, is through the county. So that's it. Anybody else have any new business?
I just
Davey?
had some questions coming in from some residents regarding Weber Basin's project over 89 and replacing the foliage, all the trees and bushes. Are they planning to, what is that called when you have to, or reclamate that, all of that when they are finished? Or what is the plan for that area? Does anyone know?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, it will be revegetated, but not with trees.
Natural vegetation, I think, is the.
Are you just gonna like hydroseed the area?
I don't know that I can speak specifically what they will do, but it won't be left bare. There may be some erosion control blankets and some seeding and whatnot, but I'm certain that there won't be any trees that go back in.
I'm gonna second that. There won't be any trees that go back in
Yeah,
at least where their pipeline is.
right.
They won't want them on top of it.
Mm-mm.
No,
I would be surprised if they put any really close to where their pipeline is too, because they don't want the roots. That was the whole thing. They
Yeah.
said they can't have any deep rooted trees.
Yeah.
You're right.
So does that mean our trees going up 2,700 are going to be gone? They're not gonna be replaced?
there's 2 phases of the project. In certain areas, they're doing, because there's parallel pipelines, 2 72-inch steel pipelines. Across 89, when they cross that, they're gonna put both of them in. But in other areas, in most areas, they're only doing one, and they'll come back for a second phase some
Time
in the future to put the other one in. The first one that's going in by 2,700 will actually be closer to 89. And if I recall correctly, it won't really impact much of 2,700. But the second phase that pipe will impact the east side of 2700.
So we need to keep watering our trees,
We need,
right, Michelle?
so we should have been watering those trees this summer.
Well, they'll eventually be gone, unfortunately, so I guess.
But who
it's
knows
the timing.
when, who knows when that future day might be.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not an authority on exactly everything that they're doing. They've invited us to join them for like their weekly construction meetings. Ben Slater from our office is the one that's been attending those meetings, and if there are things that kind of relate to something directly to the city, then he's tried to relate that back to us. If there's any public relation type issues, they've been instructed to get with Shaylee to be able to get that out to the city, get things posted or whatnot. So we have a seat at the table, so to speak, but we certainly aren't influencing any of the design of their project. It's a Bureau of Reclamation project, so it's federally
Right.
Backed, and so anyway. Maybe that was a longer answer than you were asking for.
Okay,
I do have some more new business.
yes.
First of all, we have a new business that is open in town. Down along South Weber Drive, the Ski and Save. Ski and See. So everybody, we gotta be happy. We got a retail store there and we got something good. So just excited to have them in our town. So and then also I don't know how else to put it, but apparently we have had a theft in the city. I don't know if the city would like to talk about that.
That was on my list.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if Angie would like to talk about that.
Happy. I want Shaylee to talk about it.
We have had a theft here in South Weber. If you guys remember our event that we did throughout the summer, Spot the Squatch, we had a big Sasquatch about 2.5 feet big, 2.5 feet large. That after the event, we ended up putting him across the street to hide in the bushes and play peekaboo with everyone. And recently this week, as I was driving into work, I noticed that he was gone. So he is still in South Weber. I know that for sure. We do know where he is, and we're just pleading with whoever has them to please come bring him back because I miss him dearly. So please bring him back to me so that way we can continue the tradition of Spot the Squatch next year as well. That would be awesome.
The exact location of the Sasquatch.
Yes, we do. And we're just giving time before we come and get him ourselves.
So in time, this will be upgraded if we need to, taken to a.
Yeah, our causal elimination is out, so we're waiting for.
Okay.
He's a little busy right now. I don't know, but he's on his way as far as I know.
So, yeah, hopefully that'll be brought to the city and left in the back door or someplace. So
Leave them in the back alley.
we'll take it back however we need to. But yeah, that was it for the new business.
Okay. Committee reports, anyone? Start with you, Joel. Anything on committee reports you'd like to say?
We've got the baseball diamond put in. So that one's all taken care of up at Cherry Farms Park. So yeah, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, a lot of good work was done. And it was done in time, and hopefully we will have a good chance for it to survive over winter. We also did meet with the train club, talking to them about plans for the next year, some of the successes and some of the things that we kind of missed the mark on this year. But we've got we've got a lot of good ideas being used or a lot of good minds being used to create some ideas on what the train club's going to be pushing next year and fixing and repairing and designing and things. So,
Have we gotten a signature from them yet?
yep, they are under contract. And so are we.
When did they sign that? Just out of curiosity. Exact date and time, please.
While they're looking that up, the train club has had a very good year. It was not quite as good as some of the other years that have gone on, but they've been able to serve, I think it was, can't even remember how many people that they said over the season. But it has been a big success, and they've had a lot of private parties, and it's been good to watch them.
Good.
It was late October.
That's okay. I just wanted to know approximately, like, if this is hot off the presses.
They signed it, yeah, it was October 31st or
Ooh,
30th.
Halloween.
We had a
Okay.
meeting 2 days later and they had just barely signed it.
And so that starts a 12 month. What did we do? 24 months?
So the date stayed as the original date.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know. Great, thank you.
Haley?
I don't have any new or committee reports other than this is our first meeting since our Halloween event. So good job to staff for putting that on. It was fantastic. Lots of fun. Heard lots of great comments, and just a reminder of our breakfast with Santa on the 16th. So get prepared for that one. Is that the right date?
On the
9 o'clock. 9 a.m.
So are we good with everything that's going on with that? Everybody know what their job is there? Hey, Quinn?
Just 2 things, admin finance. In a coming city council meeting, we'll be talking more about the ARPA. We have to obligate those funds by the end of next year. So we got a little bit of time. But we haven't done anything since we talked about it several months ago. So as we're looking ahead to next year, we needed to kind of finalize that. And then just to follow up from staff, Trevor, I think we got the notice from the state that we were not complying and we we're going to rewrite. Where did that end up?
Yes, so we just to catch everybody up if they didn't see that email, we were sent a non-compliance email for our moderate income housing update that mainly centered around our activity on item I that we selected, which is the single room occupancies. Background on what those are: it's basically dorm style housing. You know, you have a room and a shared kitchen bathroom combo type thing. And so we have done some preliminary work, but we haven't substantially started work on that ordinance or to include in the zoning. And so when we did our update, they said it didn't satisfy completely. So I'm going to rewrite and submit again to help it make it satisfy. But one of the considerations that I think we need to talk about is whether or not that item is the one that we want to continue forward with. Just some complaints that we've had on code enforcement for rentals is there's concern that there's just rooms being rented and they're sharing kitchens and bathrooms and things like that. That would constitute a single room occupancy. And so by continuing with that item modern housing, we would allow that in certain circumstances. If that's something we want to continue with, and I think that's fine, we can continue with that. If that's something that maybe we want to update, then we can send it up to the state saying, hey, we've looked at this, it's not conducive to our city. We're planning on changing it in the next year. That could be something we could do. So I'm looking for your guidance on whether or not you want to pursue looking at changing that or just continue with that item. And if you don't know tonight, you can contact me.
Do we need to put it as a discussion item next month?
It would be
Next
helpful, I think.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
And
That's all I have.
Okay,
Municipal Utility Committee meeting or MUC will be meeting December 6th for a kickoff meeting, but I forgot to tell everybody after I left that meeting, the mayor can't attend that day. So maybe we'll have it without you.
last night I couldn't attend
You said you had meetings like all day long.
on the 6th.
Yeah. So we'll TBD. Okay. That's it. Oh, no, let me tell you what the kickoff meeting's for. It's it's for the Public Works building. So we're gonna meet with Valley Design and start the whole process officially. You don't have that on your calendar? Are you guys
I don't have it on my calendar either.
No, I don't want.
We already
Yeah.
kind of had a kickoff
Makes
meeting,
sense.
but this is more of a design meeting.
What day was it? The 11th?
I don't have it on.
Kind of already had a
No, the
kickoff
6th.
meeting.
Our
The
kick- That
6th.
was our
That's what I thought you
kickoff
said.
meeting.
This is our other kickoff. This is the second kickoff.
This isn't overtime.
Is it touchdown or field goal?
Can we, is it fair if I just say that we're currently working with VDC, and when we get to our next like meeting time and need to meet as the MUC, then we'll let you know and get it scheduled?
That's fair, but I've got to look at.
Will
this
that be
now.
the second kickoff meeting or the third? kickoff?
Does-
I'm just kind of confused.
I sent a text to the mayor, November 9th at 1:14 PM during our meeting. Does
Okay, I'm not
December
saying I didn't
6th
get it.
at 11 work for you?
What time was it?
At 11.
Well, that's because there's.
Dave had a meeting from 9 to 11 and you said you have two meetings
That-
at noon and 2. I'm
That
not
was,
making
to-
this up.
that was to start like the bi-weekly meetings, I think.
Okay.
Let's check where we're at this point.
So we gotta-
Okay, no one's kicking anything, okay? We're just gonna have a meeting.
So 9 AM recreation,
Push
like
on
10
that.
parks.
It's you.
I
So-
hope
Be there all by yourself, like.
I'm gonna have a good time.
Just showing you that I do have
You, no one's believing me. All right, that's all my reports. I'm
So
done.
Brandon, are you, because we met 2 weeks ago, or have you started meeting with them bi-weekly or weekly?
We have not set up regular meetings yet. We've just been communicating as needed.
Okay. I think there was a point in time when we discussed we would start meeting on a
Right.
regular.
Yes, and I
basis.
think that was once they were starting on kind of
Point
final
is
design
at
of the
1:14
buildings.
PM.
We can start on the second.
Agenda item to discuss when to meet?
No.
That's next week.
I know. We can do what we need to do.
You can do it. I can't. The meeting I've got is at Central Weaver Sewer District, 2:00.
I think Blair needs to make a report now.
I
I'm
have, I
done.
have nothing to report.
So is there a meeting on
No,
That would be a negative.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay,
thank you.
I'm over here like scrambling.
staff, anything?
Yes. I think everybody knows, but if they don't know, for the public, I don't want to take Trevor's announcement, but he is taking another position with another city. And what that means for city staff is that whenever we have employees leave, we evaluate who's doing what and how to put the pieces in place the right way. Knowing that Trevor is taking a position and Mac is retiring, that's 2 department heads that are housed in City Hall here that are leaving within weeks of each other. The mayor, myself, other key staff members have had conversation about what to do and what positions we will need to advertise for. And where we've landed is to consolidate departments in City Hall and have 1 department head instead of 2. We have had our community services department and we've had our admin finance department and bring those together into more of an administrative services department. Which would include the functions of both. The dominoes of that type of a decision ultimately mean that there will be a number of promotions of city staff or shuffling of the chairs a little bit, and some of the assignments that people have. You'll be having in your next meeting appointments of a finance director for State Code, as was brought up, as well as city treasurer. Recommendation and appointment by the mayor with the advice and consent of the city council. That will come before you in your next meeting on December 12th. There are other kind of staff adjustments that will be made in association with that to kind of again consolidate the departments and hopefully create some additional efficiencies with those that are leaving. Will obviously miss who they are and what they've brought to the table, but it allows an opportunity for us to evaluate moving forward how to structure, how to use the resources that we have allocated with staff. These changes will either remain cost neutral to the city or perhaps create some savings in employment costs. And so there will be two positions that you will see advertised for. One would be a community development manager rather than a director that would report to our administrative services director, as well as our utility billing clerk, as we will be able to shift Heather's responsibilities as our utility billing clerk.
That transition from where we had a part-time contract city planner, Trevor, is that going to fall underneath the manager? Then is that? I mean, that's the one. That's my one concern. It's not necessarily. I mean, I do have the same similar concerns as Joel, but I just want to make sure the city planning we don't lose that side of it, because that's been I think planning commission has benefited from it. I think the city's benefited from the change.
Yeah, one of the goals as I see it is to make sure that transition is smooth. And when we originally created the community services director position, it had a planning emphasis, but it had a bunch of other elements to it. And Trevor has done a great job managing all of those different things. Part of the goal in this is to create a community development manager that is strictly planning. Code committee has a whole lot of work to do, especially as was pointed out, the shift between legislative and administrative. We want to get code as clean as we can before the development projects come in. And so there's an emphasis on workload there, as well as just, going through the planning process. We have a plan update as necessitated by the state to include water conservation, as well as the timing of our regular schedule for general plan updates. So to be able to have somebody not at the director level, but more of that manager level, means that we are targeting very specifically somebody with planning background, not just 1 year out 2 years out. But it is targeted to, let's make sure our planning does not backslide.
Also add that Trevor has taken, prior to Trevor, I feel like my responsibilities for, as things go through the development process, you know, I tried to make sure that everything was covered. Since Trevor's been here, I have had to do way less. So he has taken a lot of what I was previously doing. And so I personally would appreciate if someone is put in that position that will carry that same workload. I can do it, but I think it works much better the way we have been working together versus me feeling like I'm carrying more of a primary role.
Agreed.
I agree. Thank you.
Just tell Trevor no, he can't leave.
There we go.
Yeah. Both of you.
Lane has spoken.
Yeah, Lane gets what Lane gets.
So
That's
let's-
just the way it is.
We definitely will miss Trevor and we will miss Mac.
Both of you will be
Absolutely.
extremely missed.
Okay, with that, then we'll look to adjourn this open meeting and enter into a closed session.
So one more thing, Rob.
Okay,
Thank you. To the
Thank you.
council, to the mayor, to the staff, you guys, I think you're in a position you don't hear that often. I hear criticism. I appreciate your time and efforts of what you do for me, for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lane. Appreciate it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Claire did.
And I second it.